Attention, the following video is totally going to kick ass.
If you enjoyed any of it or have a large Mommy! Please click the sub and like button down below.
Shut up, Maggie. At least Chris loves me and I
For
love him.
God's
That's
sake,
no
Mike,
homo.
please stop with this bullshit.
Just shut your bitch ass up.
Sorry, wrong clip. Hello people, welcome to the official Lagosto YouTube channel. This video is pretty much just going to explain my thoughts on my 10th grade year, or most commonly known as my sophomore year. 10th grade. Oh boy, this sophomore year of mine is the absolute worst. Yes, even beating out 2nd grade. 9th grade absolutely solos 10th grade if I'm gonna be honest. Nah, I'm kidding. 10th grade in my opinion is a somewhat decent year filled with lots of standouts from 9th grade, but unfortunately this year just doesn't really try as hard when it comes to hitting. I'll put this into some simple terms. This year just does not hit very hard, and I still think this year is worse than 6th grade and 8th grade in my opinion. Like with the previous analysis videos I have made out of 8th grade and 9th grade, there are definitely going to be some chapters in this video, and the most notable start off to this video is of course the classes. Let's go over and talk about the classes. I'm gonna be honest, these classes are kind of a mixed bag, honestly. They're definitely better than the 9th grade classes I've had, but some of these classes are still pretty bad. There are only 2 classes I outright hated in 10th grade, but some of these classes this year are one of the best classes I've actually ever had. Many of these 10th grade classes are massive improvements over their 9th grade counterparts. So the first class I will be talking about is Spanish.
Flojo conche tu madre hasta cuando vaya a hacer algo productivo.
Cállate vieja culia, muérete.
I know I've said that the 10th grade classes are definitely better than the 9th grade counterparts, but unfortunately, my school days have to start off with this travesty. Spanish 3 Honors. Spanish 3 Honors is easily one of the worst classes I've ever been in. Yes, this is even worse than Spanish 2 Honors. Honestly, I don't even know where to begin. This might actually just be one of the most insulting classes. I mean, Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, despite of how bland they actually were, at least they were easy and actually not boring at all. Here, I just cannot take with how boring this class really is. There are several instances in Spanish 3 where I literally fall asleep because of how bad and boring it really is. There was even one moment in December where I had to present a Spanish project in front of all of my classmates. And then just a few minutes later, the teacher just caught me cheating for no reason. The teacher apparently accused me of using Google Translate, which I actually did use Google Translate. But how does the teacher even know I even used it? This teacher makes no sense sometimes. I actually have no real reason as to why I even took Spanish 3 Honors in the first place, because I will admit that Spanish 2 Honors did kind of fall off after quarter 4, because quarter 4 is the worst quarter for Spanish 2, because usually I had like 90s in Spanish 2, but for quarter 4 I had like a 70. It shows how hard Spanish really is declining. I'm not even kidding. I am absolutely gonna go on and on why I absolutely hated Spanish 3 Honors. Spanish 3 Honors, in my opinion, is now my least favorite class of all time. Yes, even worse than design and drawing. I might as well just forget about Spanish 3 and I'm just gonna move on to the next class, which is English. Now, if you checked out my previous 2 analysis videos on 8th grade and 9th grade, you should know that I am not a fan of English. I find that class extremely boring and uninteresting. And English 10, honestly, is no different. This class is severely boring as hell and barely anything happens. There's literally no substance that happens in English. For English 10, I only want to mention the chapter books that I have been reading, since most of this class I would rather just forget about. The first chapter book I read in English 10 is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. I do believe the beginning of this book went on for a little too long and was pretty boring, but thankfully the rest of this book was actually pretty decent. I actually really like this book aside from that N-word joke. Thankfully, my teacher did not read that segment of the book because the teacher would have probably gotten in trouble otherwise. And good thing that The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian only has that one N-word joke, because the next book I'm reading, which I'm currently reading right now, To Kill a Mockingbird, has multiple N-word jokes, and I absolutely hate them. The book itself, though, is pretty boring. There's literally nothing that happens in To Kill a Mockingbird. And I'm literally surprised that a lot of people consider this their favorite book. If you have read To Kill a Mockingbird, please tell me if the rest of the chapters are good, because I am up to like chapter 10 or something, and the book is just so boring. Yeah, I can't believe 10th grade starts off with 2 bad classes. But thankfully, 3rd period does make up those 2 terrible classes, because in quarters 1 and 2, I have astronomy, and astronomy is the good class, right? Yeah, I really like astronomy. Astronomy is not my favorite class of the year, but it's definitely my second favorite, and definitely an improvement over Earth science. This class is just so much fun to learn about. I love learning about the stars and, the constellations, the zodiac signs. Everything about astronomy is really cool. And a class has to be good when there is a freaking field trip to planetarium. Yes, I approve. Because I have not gotten one field trip in 9th grade. And this is the only field trip I'm having in 10th grade. And this is honestly the best field trip I've ever had. Sadly though, astronomy is only a half-year course, so I do have a different class right now in period 3. And what is it? Meteorology. Meteorology is also a pretty good class, but it's not as good as astronomy. This class is basically earth science, but without all of those insane amount of labs that I had to do. The lessons in meteorology are good, although a little bit too difficult, especially learning about the cold and warm fronts of the atmosphere. That was way too tricky and confusing in my opinion. And there's one final thing I need to mention about both astronomy and meteorology. I had the exact same teacher for both of those classes in the exact same period. Yes, this is actually real, and it's honestly hilarious to say this. For 4th period, I have 2 different classes, and the 2 different classes are in 2 different specific days. For odd day, I have ICT, and for even day, I have physical education. But first, we're gonna have to start with ICT. ICT is just kind of like a study hall class where you have to make up work that you were missing, and that's basically just it. It's nothing special. Now let's move on to gym. Physical education is unsurprisingly a really good class. I mean, it doesn't really count as a class because, well, physical education is basically just an education for your physical health, basically. In my 9th grade analysis video, I made some complaints about football being the worst sport and the sport I struggled with the most. Thank God I didn't even have to play football this time. Instead, I just went outside and just took a walk around the track because, I don't know, I don't have a life. I really just listen to music outside, just relaxing and minding my own business. And then I played volleyball. Volleyball was kind of a mixed bag because, well, I kind of struggled at times, but at times I was actually really good at volleyball. But the last time I actually did play volleyball, I actually got really frustrated because I was worried that my team may have lost the game. But thankfully my team did win the game. And the next sport we got is badminton. I love badminton, and I never will stop loving it. Badminton is like a god tier of a sport. I will never get tired of loving this amazing masterpiece of a sport. And the sport after badminton is floor hockey. Floor hockey is also really good because I got several goals playing floor hockey. It was really enjoyable to say the least. Wait, there's also one more sport, and Mario has to say this one.
Would you guys consider jacking off to be a sport?
Now forget badminton. This is easily my new favorite sport. Oh no, I'm getting a little too far, am I? I'm sorry, people. I'm gonna get canceled! And honestly, I am tired of using the GTA gameplay background, so I decided to replace it with something different. There, do you all enjoy it now? Next class I will be talking about is Studio in Art. Honestly, I was kind of worried for this one. I was worried that this class was gonna end up just as horrible as Design Drawing, but thankfully it didn't, as Studio in Art is definitely one of the better high school classes. And it's not because of the students. I mean, the students were not nearly as horrible as they were in Design and Drawing. The work is actually really engaging and actually easy. Yes, they're actually easy. Yes, I have been taught some lessons in Studio and Art about the lessons I have been learning about in Design and Drawing, but for some reason, I actually concentrate much easier in Studio and Art than Design and Drawing. All of these projects are all the projects I have made. Yes, I am definitely Picasso, right people? There's nothing else to say about Studio and Art. It's just a solid, enjoyable class. Now we got Global History. Now, for Global History is usually an alright class because I don't really care a whole lot about it. And this year, nothing special really happens in Global History. It's just an alright class. I do think Global History for 10th grade is a slight improvement over Global History for 9th grade, and that's because the teachers are just more enjoyable here than in 9th grade. Nothing more than that, really. I just genuinely do not care about Global History, like, at all, actually. Next class is Lunch, and I'm going to be skipping that because I have nothing to say about Lunch. And the last class I have for 10th grade is Statistics. Statistics might officially just be my favorite class I've ever had. And no, I'm not even kidding. After a horrible math class I've had in 9th grade, which was geometry, I was really hoping that statistics would be better. And I was so proud to say that statistics was like amazing. This class is just so good. Like literally, I have every single word to describe how amazing statistics really is. Like literally, I'm so good at statistics that I have a 100 overall in statistics. I mean, quarter one didn't really do so well because I got like a 97 in quarter one, but for quarter two and quarter three, my 100 streak kept on going. Got 100 in second quarter and got 100 in third quarter. And guess what? I still have 100 in fourth quarter right now. Statistics is easily my favorite class of the year and also my favorite class of all time. I will never forget about how amazing this class is. So I have talked about every single class, and these classes are actually decent. Statistics obviously makes the classes so much more enjoyable, but sadly, Spanish definitely ruins the classes a whole lot, and this is why the classes are just decent in my opinion. Now, let's go on to the chapter that everybody has been waiting for. My favorite thing, the students. I don't think my expectations could go any lower when talking about these students, because oh boy, I am going to have an absolute field day with these students. You know, as someone who actually really hated Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I can officially say that these students are terrible. I have no idea what happened to their innocence. The true thing I really gotta say about these students is yeah, these students have officially just hit rock bottom. At least I am not suffering from Gen Alpha syndrome, because these students definitely suffered from that type of syndrome. Because these students, they act like man children, or woman children, whatever. Yes, they actually act like children. I'm not kidding. These students all act like children. They all act so immature, they keep screaming for no reason, and the security guards keep telling them to stop screaming. What type of drugs have these kids taken? Because I hope it's not crack. If it actually was crack, these kids seriously need to go to a mental hospital. I'll literally give you one clip from one SMG4 video which shows how annoying these students really are. I think that is just a perfect, legitimate example as to why these students are terrible. Let me go over and talk about the behavior of every single student in each class that I am in. Starting off with Spanish 3 honors. Now, if you may remember from my 2 previous analysis videos, you should know that I absolutely hated these students in my Spanish class. They were all insanely annoying, especially in my 9th grade Spanish class. So I was hoping they would be a little different, and they actually were. The kids in my 10th grade Spanish class are actually not nearly as annoying as they were last year. They weren't talking nearly as much as they were in 9th grade, but the students are still kind of mediocre and not really interesting. Next class we got is English, and the students they're alright. Now to meteorology and astronomy. Like English, there really isn't much to say about them. They're just alright. Now on to gym and ICT. In ICT, they're just calm and don't really do anything. It's just study hall, really. In gym, however, they're kind of insufferable and pretty annoying. There is one kid that called me ugly for no reason. But some of the boys in physical education are actually tolerable. So yeah, I actually didn't really hate them this time. Now on to studio and art. The students are a major distraction because I am literally currently trying to work on my project and the students keep asking me to help them. Sometimes I do accept and I do help them, but they do this all the time and sometimes they just constantly talk to me while I am trying to work on my project. That's why I just considered the students a 4 out of 10 in studio and art. Now on to global history. Kind of like with the other classes that I have been talking about, the students in global history are actually alright. They were really annoying in 9th grade, but they thankfully improved themselves in 10th grade. Now on to lunch. Oh my god. The students in my lunch period are so annoyingly abysmal. It seems like they really want to get in trouble on purpose just to piss off the security guards. And that's basically what the students are. They also swear non-stop, and the security guards keep telling them to stop swearing, but they just wouldn't listen. Yes, I literally act like a security guard, and even I am done with their bullshit. It's because I absolutely couldn't stand them. Like, every time a student argues with another student, and when I see a student do that, I just consider that just an average day of the students being really, really obnoxious. The students are at their absolute worst in lunch. I absolutely hate them. Now let's move on to statistics. Now the students in statistics were actually really nice. They actually treated me well because, well, I was the best at statistics. I had the best grades in statistics, so obviously the students are supposed to treat me like the king of statistics. Or math. I'm like a mathematician, basically. Am I done talking about the students? Oh, absolutely not. I have more stuff to say about these god-awful students. Similar to 8th grade and 9th grade, these students definitely ruined the enjoyable vibe of 10th grade. If the students really weren't that obnoxious, 10th grade could have been probably in my top 3 favorite school years. But sadly, no, it's probably somewhere in the top 5 or maybe even top 10. Because of how terrible the students are. Also, most of the students' voices are so freaking annoying to listen to. Like, I absolutely hate hearing the students all the time that I end up bringing earbuds to school. It's not even like half the time, it's all the time. I bring my earbuds to school to block out all the noises coming from these students who have like negative 50 IQ. I don't even test out my IQ because I know my IQ is way higher than these NPC kids. Now, thankfully, there are actually some positives about the students because the students barely even had any positives at all in 9th grade. A few positives I can give to these students is that I have became a little bit more social with them. I interacted with them a little bit more, and guess what? I actually invited one of my friends all the way to church, and he actually came and he loved it. Some other students are actually tolerable and actually have common sense about not breaking the rules at all at school, which is actually a good thing. Now let me continue with my huge issues with these students, because these students literally have always been unlikable, like ever since 7th grade. I should also point out how many couples there are in my high school. It's actually ridiculous. But I won't be talking about relationships yet, because I do have a chapter for relationships. So that is basically everything I really need to say about the students. The students get a 1 out of 10. These students literally deserve to get a 1 out of 10. Even after all those positives, these students still deserve that low of a rating. Now let's move on to the school days themselves. Yes, I'm not going to be going over the teachers because I think all the teachers in 10th grade are tolerable. So I don't need to point out any flaws about them really. Now, let's move on. So, for every single school day of mine, I usually just get up, go to school, rate how good or bad the day is, and basically that's it. I've been rating every single school day of mine since the first day of 10th grade to see if 10th grade was going to be another good or another terrible year. And gladly, most of the ratings are actually above a 5 out of 10. Now, obviously, I am not going to rate every single school day because that will take like forever. So I thought about just rating the months to see which month is the best month of 10th grade and which month is the worst month of 10th grade. September is a pretty good way to start off 10th grade, but isn't really anything super special really. It's just the start of the year. There's really nothing special that really happens here. I mean, all the days have been consistently good, except for September 22nd, which is a 3 out of 10 day. The best day of September is the last day of September, September 29th, 2023, which is an 8.5 out of 10 day because a girl was smiling at me. The worst day of September is the day I literally just showed you all. I give September 70.94%, which is a good month to start off 10th grade. Now we got October. October, on the other hand, was not very good. The good days in October were literally exactly the same as September, and there are actually more days that are actually near or below a 5 out of 10. The best day of October is an 8 out of 10, and it's also a tiebreaker because I really can't decide which day in October is better. The worst day in October is October 26th. With a 4 out of 10 rating because I kept saying that the students were Flanderized, which in fact they were because the students were god-awful in that day. This was thankfully the month that I did watch Nekopara, and if you want to know what Nekopara is, make sure to check out my YouTube poop out of it. It's really good. The overall percentage for October is 66.90%, which is definitely worse than September. November is next. And honestly, I consider November better than both September and October. This was such a fun month, I'm not even kidding. This was the month that had the field trip in it, the planetarium field trip. And that day is my very first 10 out of 10 day in 10th grade. My favorite day in November is definitely the field trip day. And the worst day of November is, surprisingly, November 6, 2023. And yet it only has a 6 out of 10 rating. Why is it so low? It's because the students suck. However, this is the current and only month right now that actually has one day that I actually skipped school because I was actually sick one day. So the overall percentage for November is 77.65%, way higher than September and October. And interesting enough, November is the only month in 10th grade where I actually did not post one single video. Yeah, no video at all in November. Now we got December. December is better than September and October, but worse than November in my opinion. The first half of December, I was working on the Nico Paro YTP video, and it lasted for like 10 days to make it. And it was really funny to say the least. My favorite day of December is also the last day of December. It's not quite as good as the field trip day, but still a great day, giving itself a 9 out of 10 day. The worst day of December, which is actually really surprising, is the day that my Nico Paro YTP premiered, December 13th, 2023. It was just really boring for most of it, and a fire drill actually was so pointless that we literally had to stay in school for like 3 minutes longer than usual. It's so dumb. The percentage for December is 72.81%. Slightly worse than November, but that's not really saying much. Now we move on to 2024 with January. I'm really shocked to say that January is better than all the 4 previous months because January actually had volleyball and badminton. I mean, volleyball was good, but nothing really special, but badminton is seriously amazing. The best day of January is a tie between January 11th and January 16th. It's all because of art club and volleyball because they are all so enjoyable and really fun to play. The worst day of January is January 8th. It was the day I got back from winter weekend at Tuscarora. And it's all because, well, my friends were kind of dicks for no reason. I didn't really like them that much. Yep, there were no terrible days at all in January. So the overall percentage for January is 80.88%. However, the next month, February, is actually better than January. Even by that percentage, February is way better than January. You know, February 2024 kind of reminded me of February 2022, of just how amazing that month was in 2022, even though 2022 was kind of just an okay year for me. The reason why February is my favorite month in 10th grade is mainly because of badminton. Yeah, just badminton. My favorite day of February is surprisingly the first day of February. And that day is a 10 out of 10 because, well, the CTE program was actually really cool. And it kind of reminded me a whole lot of the 6th grade memories for some reason. However, the worst day of February is February 6th and February 8th, even though they're both 7 out of 10s. The percentage for February is 84.67%, which is probably like 4% higher than January. I'm sorry if this chapter is taking forever because I don't want this video to be really lengthy, so I'm just going to give out the rest of the percentages for the last 2 months. March gets 79.75%, and April is the second weakest month of the year, getting 69.64%. I only think October is worse than April in my opinion. So that's basically every month of 10th grade. So 10th grade has actually been a good year based off the school days themselves. The school days themselves actually kind of helped this year improve just by a little bit. Yeah, I'm really tired of reviewing this chapter because really I am out of breath while talking. So the next chapter will be the mysterious one. Do I have a girlfriend? Am I in a relationship? Let's begin the last chapter before the conclusion. Do you want the answer? Okay. Not even surprised that I'm still not in a relationship. And you know what? I don't even care anymore if I'm single. As long as I don't be desperate around any of you, I'll be perfectly fine. I tried to make a video explaining why I don't like relationships twice, but I was worried that I would be called desperate around the internet and I would be involved in lots of controversies. So I just decided not to make them, and I feel like talking about my thoughts on relationships right now in this 10th grade analysis video.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now!
I'm not even kidding when I put that video down. I might just be the only person in my high school that doesn't like relationships. And if you really don't like relationships, say hello to high school relationships. I've never felt so uncomfortable after looking at these high school relationships. You want to know what's the funny part about these high school relationships? They don't even last for a month. It's so dumb. Now listen, if you're actually watching this video and if you actually are in a relationship, I'll give you my respect, because it's perfectly fine if any of you that is watching this video are currently in a relationship. I'm just currently slandering high school relationships because, well, high school relationships usually are the most toxic out of every single relationship I have ever seen in my entire life. I feel like every single person in my school I have ever interacted with have been in a relationship at least one time. I have not been in a relationship one time. It's kind of crazy because there's probably like half a dozen people trying to ask me out, but all of them I rejected because they probably aren't my type. Or probably are just adults that are probably asking me out because they're probably pedophiles. My hatred towards relationships is so bad that possibly dozens of people are very concerned that I don't like relationships. Some managed to help me get a girlfriend, although I'm still struggling. One thought that relationships are overrated, which is probably the funniest message I've ever seen, and some just agree or disagree with my statements. The craziest thing is that I have over 15 reasons why I don't like relationships in my high school, and most of them are related to my high school. I don't think I can make this possibly clear. Relationships in my high school are the absolute bane of my existence. I would rather rewatch my least favorite SMG4 video of all time twice than rather see a high school relationship. That's really how it goes, really. This was a pretty short chapter because I don't have a lot of stuff to say about the high school relationships, so I'm just going to move on to the conclusion and to see what my overall thoughts are on my 10th grade, or most commonly known as my sophomore year. This 10th grade analysis video has led up to its main question, which is also the title of this video. Is 10th grade good or nah? So, overall in my statistics of the school days, of most of them being really good, to the classes actually being decent, to the students being terrible, I can comfortably say that 10th grade is overall a good year. I am so proud that my sophomore year took a complete 180 around my freshman year and ended up being way better than I initially thought. Even if I do think my 10th grade year is way better than my 9th grade year, I have been thinking about my 9th grade year more, and I don't think this year is as bad as I thought. I just think the year is now mediocre, even though it's still my third least favorite school year right now. As for my 10th grade school year, I do think this year is better than my 3rd grade year, but worse than my 5th grade year. So I would place my sophomore year in 5th place, right behind 5th grade, the 2nd year for preschool, 8th grade, and 6th grade. So that's basically everything I need to really say about my 10th grade analysis video. This is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to work on. This probably took me like almost 2 weeks to make the entire video. It took me the entire spring break to make this video. I'm not even kidding when I say this. Well, I'm glad I'm done making this video, and hopefully you'll all like this video to see how much effort I put into that video. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching Lagosto, and have a great day.